We now switch gears to hear from Anuradha Parekh and Dhiman Parekh, founders of the Better India, an initiative started to give a voice to millions of change makers and innovators of the country, using the power of storytelling to inspire change. Join me in welcoming Anuradha and Dhiman as they join us live to talk on the topic skills and values towards a better India. Over to you, Anuradha and Dhiman.
Thank you so much, Prerna. Really happy to be here. Um, Quick introduction. My name is Hemant.
And I'm Anuradha.
And we are the founder of the Better India and the Better Home. The Better India, as some of you might know, is India's largest positive news platform. And today we are here to talk about our journey, talk about some of the learnings we've had, and also really kind of get a little deeper into the values that we realized are the most important for us as as citizens, and also as children who are coming into the whole education system, and what do we really value. So those are the things we would like to touch about. As part of the conversation, we would strongly encourage, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments section below, so that we can take questions and answer them.
Great, so let's get started.
Yeah, so okay, the agenda is fairly simple. As I said, we will first introduce about what we do, then our journey and the lessons, and take it from there. So a quick background. The Better India is India's largest positive news platform. We basically tell stories that inspire change and then give people the tools with which they can make a difference themselves. The Better India started as a community of people sharing everything that's progressive, everything that's good around us. And now, very recently, we've also entered the whole sustainability space, because we're starting to think about how we consume products and what are they doing to our environment and our planet. And that's when we launched an eco-friendly range of home cleaners, which is called the Better Home. So that's a very quick background of who we are. And we'd love to take you through the journey of building the Better India.
Yeah, okay. So what Dhiman said back there is really in a nutshell. I think we really need to talk about a lot of things, small and big, that got us to where we are today, right? So it's a sort of a story that we'll delve into now. So the beginnings of the Better India were laid in 2008, really. So we go back about 12 years, over a cup of tea, where we started, dwelling on the state of media, of impact in the country, and really starting to wonder whether the kind of news that we were consuming every day is all there is to it. Isn't there a possibility of news doing something more than just just giving us the most negative and the most sensational kind of things, right? So the idea really was, can news be used to inspire people? Can news be used to create impact? Can news be put to some better use? And with all the tools that we had at our disposal back then, booming at that point of time, social media was really taking off, and there was there was immense potential in using all of these platforms. And the most beautiful part of it all was that it did not require a huge, capital investment and all of that from our side. So the idea really was, the big idea was to start small. Let's really start putting in, like, just start sharing stories of people and organizations and ideas and initiatives that we came across, that we saw around us, and start covering them, start telling their stories, and let's see what happens from there, and that was the foundation of the blog called The Better India, right?
Yeah. In fact, it started, like, as Anuradha mentioned, over a cup of tea, and every morning when we would flip the newspaper, the only thing that you saw in the newspaper, and you still see in the newspaper, is crime and celebrity gossip, and not everything of gloom and doom. And as she mentioned, the thought really was that, why are we starting our day like this, right? This is your best time of the day. You wake up, you're having tea or coffee, and this is how we all start our day, and then we kind of go to our jobs and all of that stuff. So the idea is, like, how do you rethink and reimagine news? Can it be so we started very small. I still remember it was just the two of us. We stay in Bangalore, so the two of us going around on weekends, finding people who were making small differences in their communities, in their neighborhoods. So we would just go there, write about them, and we would just put it up on a blog. It was back then, blogging. This is back in 2008. Blogging was the thing. So we just put it up on a blog and then share it with our family. It was largely friends and family. And slowly, people started sharing this further outside their networks, and more and more people started wanting us to read, wanting us to write more stories. We were just doing one story on a weekend. That's what Anuradha and I, we had our day jobs, and we would use Saturday and Sunday to just start putting these stories there. So slowly, more and more, and we kept doing this consistently. And I still remember one fine day when we published a story of a photography club run by visually impaired people. And we published that story, and a couple of weeks later, so first of all, the story was amazing, right? Imagine that photography is being pursued by people who are visually impaired. So they're actually taking photographs by listening, with a sense of smell and all of that, and some fantastic photographs. And a couple of weeks later, after we wrote this story, because we were just amazed by it, and we wrote this, and a girl who was visually impaired got in touch through her friend, and she said to us that all her life she had this whole passion to pursue photography, and every time she would bring it up, everyone around her would tell her that obviously that doesn't make sense. How can you do photography? And then when someone told her about this article, she told us that she actually went and joined that photography club, and how it had completely transformed her life. And this was just a few months into us having started publishing these stories. And that's when we realized that if we kind of scale this and get more people to read inspiring stories, imagine the kind of change we can bring, not just in this one individual, but in hundreds of thousands of individuals. And that was really what got us started. And we realized that there is massive power in sharing stories of innovations, of ideas, of people doing good stuff, and so on. As we started, I still remember, like I said, we would just go around during the weekends, put up a story, and then when we started seeing this kind of impact, Anuradha actually quit her job and started focusing on really building this whole content engine. So how do we kind of get more and more people to publish these stories? And slowly, someone from Delhi got in touch, saying, she actually was covering a lot of these stories, but her newspaper would not carry it. So could she write for the Better India? So we said, sure. So we had someone coming from there. Then we had someone doing water conservation in Rajasthan, who wanted to share innovations and ideas that are working in that area. So he came on board. Someone doing animal conservation in Assam. Someone working with education in the education space in Maharashtra. And slowly, we started getting stories from different corners of the country, and the impact just kind of started cascading. It just became bigger and bigger. And before we knew it, we had this really sizable community of people who were reading all the content, who were acting on. They would go meet the people we had written about, and help out and donate time, donate money, and so much impact started happening.
Yeah, I think one thing I really want to emphasize and be grateful for is a community of contributors that we've built. Right, we had over 500 contributors at one point of time, and the amazing thing is that, contrary to popular belief, people are not always motivated just by money or fame, or what's in it for me, sort of a mentality. It really took us by surprise when we kept seeing email after email or message after message coming in saying that they wanted, somebody or the other wanted to write for the Better India, share a story, and they wanted to just do it, pro bono. I mean, we didn't have any, anything available to pay anyone or any of that sort, right? So even in spite of that, there were hundreds of people who wanted to contribute stories from every corner of the country. People reached out to us and said, we would love to share this with you, or share that with you, and things like that. And these were really, I mean, people who were well known in their fields, from all walks of life. So one thing I really wanted to emphasize and, thank all of our contributors who joined us back then is that, if your intent is pure and you have, good without having any expectations, of what they're going to get in return for us, and something that I really wanted to share as well.
Yeah, and it's not just about the community of people, contributors, right? Our readers, what we were really amazed by is the kind of I would say engagement that our readers would involve, with our stories. There are numerous stories, by the way, in terms of the change that our platform managed to have. But again, going back to one of those early stages, we had written a story about a school in Chennai, which takes only hearing impaired kids as students, because most mainstream schools don't take them. And we wrote about them. And again, about a month later, they got in touch with us, asking us, who are you guys? And so our question was, why, what happened? And they said that a group of people drove down from Bangalore to Chennai. They came to our school. They've donated us furniture. They've donated 3.5 lakh rupees. They're fixing our hostel block, and all this because they've read about us on the Better India. So that's really where, these are just one of the many stories. And today we are consumed, like, our audience community is over 90 million people. That's about 9 crore people every month. But more importantly, the kind of impact we've had ranges from, we've helped urban slum schools get funded. We've brought water and sanitation in villages. We've helped farmers come out of poverty. We've revived a lake recently near Bangalore. And all of this is through the power of stories and our community. So that really is this whole journey where we started in 2008. If you look at it on the left, that's that was one of the early versions of the blog that we had set up. We were just two of us, read by a handful of our friends and family members, and all the way to 2020, where today, as I mentioned, our readers are over 90 million, and not just in India, it's across 200 countries. We are a team size of over 75. And I think it really boils down to, as what Anuradha said, the intent. What is really your intent? If it's pure, if it's something wanting to do good, I think a lot of people will join your journey to help you scale it up. So here's something that we wanted to very sort of, not sound very academic about it, but these are actually things that we've learned along the way. And the first foremost, which I really strongly believe in, is that you have to build something that you are deeply passionate about. And the reason is not because this is a nice thing to say. The reason is that when you start building something, and when you actually build something as an initiative or as a business, uh, in order to succeed, you will need to give it at least an 8 to 10 year of your life, right? So 8 to 10 years of your life, you can imagine, will go behind anything that you build, which will be substantial. Now, if you're going to give 8 to 10 years of your life to something, it better be something that you're passionate about. Otherwise, it's going to become a drudgery. It's going to become something that you will not be able to pursue, because as you build something, there are lots of highs and lots of lows, in fact more lows, and you can only face those low moments if you are passionate about what you're solving. So we were really passionate about building something that is useful and is making a difference. So that's one important part that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and also the fact that never let what you've been doing so far dictate what you will be doing in the future, right? Both Hemant and I are engineers. We don't come from any journalism or media background. This is, I think this has been our strength rather than our weakness, because we've been able to completely reimagine the space and come with our own disruptive ideas, right, which were never tried before. So I would say never take those limitations as, never consider them as limitations. If you haven't had formal training in something, but you still feel passionate about something, I don't think there's any reason to let that stop you from pursuing your dreams. The next thing, for us has really been about trying out different things. When we say start small, but start, it's always been the DNA of experimentation and trying different things is something that has really seen us through all times, good and bad, because we feel that it's very important to do rather than just keep thinking about things, because there's no end to an analysis paralysis sort of a thing. But sometimes you only get to know if something will work out or not when you give it a shot. So try something. I mean, even the Better India started as that sort of an idea where it was, a small blog to begin with. We really wanted to see, where it goes. Is it just in our heads, or is it really a big idea? Does it really have that sort of potential, or is it just in our heads? And the only way to validate your concerns or your hypothesis is by trying out. So just go out and do something. Don't just keep thinking about it.
Yeah, and also I think there are lots of smart people out there who already know a lot of the stuff that you are thinking about. So always just approach people. You'll be amazed. I have been amazed. I've just reached out to people on LinkedIn, asking them for some feedback or asking them to meet, and almost everyone has responded and has given us inputs. And so my big learning earlier, I used to think that how can you just ask someone that stuff? But it's amazing that, and the more I have been building the Better India, I've realized that this is how everybody progresses. People ask each other for help, and people help each other, and that's how you see us all moving forward together. So start small, but definitely start. That's like a thing that you have to ship. You can't wait for perfection. I'm a firm believer that putting something out there, creating something out there, even if it's half-baked, is still more important than just waiting for that perfect moment, because that perfect moment will never happen. It's all in our minds. And then, of course, don't be afraid to ask for help. With the other thing that Anuradha also touched upon is the whole experimentation thing, and it kind of links with the start small thing, right? So we've always experimented new things, and you experiment really fast, so that even if it fails, you fail fast, so it doesn't really impact you too much, but you learn a lot. So be open to trying out stuff and failing. I think that's another very important value.
Yeah, and like it's mentioned here, there is no substitute for hard work. I think I mean, as human beings, we're always looking for shortcuts, right? I mean, I think that's natural, and we always, I mean, nothing gives us more joy than to find a shortcut to success or to happiness. But at the same time, I think the ground reality is that there is no substitute for hard work. You have to be prepared to put in all of those hours, all of that learning, especially when you start something of your own. You have to be clear that there will be, all that many hours put in. There is no other way around that, and the learning has to be immense, right? We cannot shy away from learning new skills. Just completely depending on ourselves and people around us to pick up things and get our hands dirty, right? That's part of an entrepreneurship journey, that you have to keep learning and doing things on your own. um, and yeah, look for opportunities everywhere. There is no dearth of opportunities. It's just, I think the limitation is only within ourselves, right? How many are we able to find? What all do we, how quickly do we grasp opportunities and take adopt them, right? That really is to do with us, and how quickly we capitalize on different opportunities. Right? Do you remember anything from our own journeys that we should?
Yeah. So one of the things, right? For instance, when we're talking about building skills, like we both are engineers, and we didn't have any background in building something like the Better India. But we actually learned everything on the job. We learned how to write. We learned how to manage social media. We learned how to create videos. We learned how to hire. We learned how to do finances. All of this we really kind of started learning.
Yeah, we were HR, sales, marketing, social media. Everything basically for our company,
including the courier service, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea. That, and why were we be able to do this? Because it just boils down to that main point of us being deeply passionate about making a difference. The kind of impact we were seeing, we were very clear that this is something that we care about, and we wanted to see the scale. So that's the thing. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put down in the comments. This, to me, this is my sort of my favorite graph, so to speak. It really summarizes things as to what people outside think. When you look at, a lot of people come back and tell us, "Oh wow, the Better India is how we get to do it. You guys, built it. It's nice and stuff." So what it is perceived by a lot of people is that we had one big idea. Someone gave us money, and we built it, and that's success, right? But the reality is what you see on the right. In fact, it's even more convoluted than what you see on the right. We started, then you were always insecure. You don't know whether you're doing this right. So you work even harder, and then again things fail, and so on. And we've had a fair share of negatives in this journey, right? There was, in fact, a period of 2 years where we were funding this out of our own pockets. We hit almost a dead end. Then we had to, and we also then had a sort of a new addition in our family. We had our son coming in at the same time. We had both quit our jobs and were relentlessly pursuing to grow the Better India. And those were some really uncertain times. And then as we grew and more people joined in, it started to kind of show. It started aligning with our vision, and eventually where we are today is what you see out there. So I just wanted to give this context, because a lot of people don't tend to understand that there is a lot more involved than just seeing the success. So yes, the very important values and skills that we've learned that you need to kind of definitely have if you want to build something that is long lasting and that makes a difference, right? Something that makes a difference. And the first thing is curiosity. We always questioned ourselves as to why is the newspaper like this? Why are we okay with starting our day like this? And is there something that we could read? And we searched for it and we didn't find it. So then we said, okay, why don't we build it, right? Why is it that nobody is kind of doing this? And that, so all that boils to curiosity for us.
Yeah, I think questioning the status quo is very important, right? Is it the best? Is what we have currently, is that the best we could get, right? Is there something better out there? Are there ways in which we could improve things around us? Curiosity to know more about the world, to learn about better practices around us, and things like that. So I think curiosity, this kind of curiosity also feeds into, I think, continuous self-improvement sort of a thing, right? How do we really make sure that there is self-learning and development happening all the time? So that's the kind of curiosity we felt and that we're talking about. I think patience is one of the most undervalued skills when we're talking about any sort of venture, and especially a social venture, right? I think you need loads and loads and loads of patience. You need patience, not just from a perspective of time, because it takes a long time to build something, to see the impact coming in, right? Very rarely is it instant gratification. There is a gestation period that happens between an idea that you get and actually starting to see results of that idea. So there is a lot of patience required from your side, and in addition to that, there's a lot of patience required in building a stakeholder network, right? In getting those first believers and adapters of your idea. You definitely can't like we say, it takes a village, right? So it's not a single person who can build everything. It takes a village, and you need that the support and belief from a lot of people. So that sort of patience and is completely something that cannot be undervalued.
Yeah, and then that brings us to the point of resilience, right? Resilience is, it's hard to quantify. Resilience is, of course, you have to stay the course no matter what happens, and continuously focus on why did you start this in the first place. Resilience also, by the way, does not mean that no matter how many failures you get, you'll just continue down that path, right? That's the fine line that you will have to understand in terms of when to keep pursuing and when to back off and find a different path. And that's something I don't think anybody can teach. I think it's something that you learn as you go down building something. And when you kind of start talking about that patience, it really ties back into persistence. You have to non-stop be behind the objective that you want to meet. So you keep persisting. If door A opens, go to door B, go to door C, but kind of keep persisting to try and make your results happen.
Yeah, resilience is also, I think, the ability to spring back after after failures or getting negative responses, which you will face a lot, right? Let's face it, during your journey, it's not going to be all hunky-dory or smooth going. It's definitely going to be a lot of failures, a lot of naysayers, a lot of no's and all of that. And the resilience is all about really, taking that in your stride and, be able to move, spring back, because you'll definitely hit those lows, right? Two very, very important values that have helped us all throughout and which form the core of our enterprise also are humility and empathy. We believe that everybody is born equal. Everybody, for us, it's all about how are we able to put ourselves in others' shoes and be able to empathize with people and understand what they are, what the kind of issues that people face, right? We generally tend to overlook that. So, yeah, these are two values which are non-compromising for us.
Great. So on that note, we come to this the end of our presentation, where we wanted to really talk about how do we reimagine education and start thinking about it around these values and work towards a better future. We do have a few questions. Prerna, if you want, I could just take a couple of them. So one of them is, of course, what made you start the Better India? I think we've answered that. The other question was, what values do we expect for better citizens and better homes in our India? Again, we listed out the values that we feel are very, very important. And someone has asked us, sometimes people invest a lot of time and energy, but end up failing. How can entrepreneurs deal better with failure? I think that's a very good question. More often than not, as entrepreneurs, we meet failures. And I think the only way we can deal with it is if we are very clear about the purpose and the objective with which we started. If our objective was to make a difference, and it goes back to that whole passion and purpose that I was talking about, that even if you were not able to kind of meet that, we are still able to, achieve satisfaction and gratification that at least we went down that path. I think that's a very important aspect for us to be aware of. And so it again ties down to why you started. So I think that's really some of the questions we had.
I think we are out of time.
Yeah, I think we're out of time now. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you.
Thank you for inviting us, and thank you for having us on this webinar.
Thank you.